Tonight's author, Jane Tandy Hardin Cross, writes, "My success has been chiefly where indeed the heart ought most to covet it, among children and sorrowful women. For it is a pleasant task to water violets and lilies, but not one in which the busy, babbling, showy world feels much concern. But the little books which Mrs. Cross has given to the world are not to be limited even to this desirable sphere. They are the evident product of intellect and culture, full of vigor as well as the most delicate grace and perception. Her portraiture shows the graphic and true lines of a master, and her works are all touched with the issues of a refined, womanly, and religious spirit. Mrs. Cross has been for some years an occasional contributor of prose and poetry to the religious journals of the South. She has written a series of stories for children, which were published in 4 small volumes called, most appropriately, Heart Blossoms, Wayside Flowerets, Driftwood, and Bible Gleanings. Jane Tandy Hardin Cross writes, "When I was but a girl, numbering not more than a dozen summers, I was taken from the tender surroundings of home and sent to a boarding school. There I was an utter stranger. Teachers and pupils were unknown to me. It seemed to me I met no glance of sympathy. Shy and sensitive, I drew off from the girls around me and wandered into the yard. A clothesline was stretched from tree to tree. I caught that with my hands, and leaning my head against it, stood looking wistfully through the crevices of the high plank fence. There I stood, a lone, awkward little stranger. I know not whether I thought of anything, except that I knew nobody. Just then, a meek-eyed girl, smaller than myself, with very soft brown hair, approached me. A few kind words came bubbling up from the pure fountain of the heart and ran over the ruby brim of her lips. I loved her. Her soul addressed me, and from that hour we were no longer strangers. At length our school days were ended, yet our friendship passed not. We grew into womanhood. She became the wife of a minister of the gospel. Of whom else could she have been the wife? He was my pastor, and she my pastor's wife, the dear little fairy. And then she was a mother, and held in her arms her firstborn, and hung enraptured on its smiles. She had never known any sorrow, never. Trained by kind, judicious, and religious parents, married to a gentle, tender husband, she had ever been so shielded that the rough winds of adversity could not reach her. But as she held her babe in her arms, and the mother's soul revealed and reveled in all those blissful emotions that only a mother's soul can know, God said, 'Give it to me.' And she gave it to him. She reached forth no rebellious arms to snatch back her receding child. She sent up no murmuring cry. She gave it to him and meekly folded her hands upon the heart from which the life blood was oozing. I shall never forget it. The day she came to spend with me in the country when her little one was gone. The pale face is still before me, and the mourning garb as she walked with me among the shrubbery and plucked the rosebuds and tried to talk cheerfully and to manifest an interest in the things about her. And sweetly she spoke of the love of God. I have read sermons on resignation, and I have listened to them from the lips of the most eloquent preachers. And the waves of time have washed out in part or entirely the impression. But a sermon that can never be washed out, an impression that can never be erased, a lesson in resignation that can never be forgotten, is the memory of that pale woman amid the rose bushes, the countenance so filled with mingled anguish and submission, and to this day it says to my troubled heart, "Peace, be still." Only to dream among the fading flowers, only to glide along the tranquil sea. Ah, dearest, dearest, have we not together one long bright day of love so glad and free? Only to rest through life in storm and